Hey, how y'all doing? Merry Christmas to everyone. This is actually being recorded on like 1 in the morning on Christmas Day, which is technically the next day. So I didn't record anything on Christmas. Since SmackDown didn't have any angles, it was basically just all matches. We're going to do one big SmackDown review because it really makes no sense to do a match by match breakdown of the show. That's just silly. But I think this might be one of the single best episodes of SmackDown ever. As far as they really did a great job on this episode of SmackDown. It was fantastic from top to bottom. Everything hit. Nothing made me groan except that stupid cartoon where everybody beats up 2020. I hate that fucking cartoon. I wish they would throw it in a blender and Kevin Dunn drink it. It's trash. I hate that fucking cartoon. But I love this show. It's a fantastic show from top to bottom. So let's get into match one, which is Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens in a steel cage match for the Universal Championship. And this match was really good. Obviously, it makes no sense to just say, because every match was really good. So really, it really makes no sense to say it was really good. But this match was great. You had the Fisherman Buster from the top rope or the second rope, one of the two. But this match really kind of told me that Roman Reigns selling is top notch. And he is mastered something that really Kurt Angle kind of mastered it too, is the kick out. Like that 2.999999999 kick out. Sometimes Kurt Angle forgets to kick out. so, but that masterful kick out, like, oh god, it's such an interesting skill. Like his selling, his body language, and his kickouts are like top notch shit. It's main event shit. Like if you go back and you watch, who else was really? I said Kurt Angle already, but there was like I think AJ Styles was also really good at kicking out, like just like cut hair, and you just missed it. Those that's really good stuff. Like that's really great timing. To be able to get the referee, because they know the referee's going to count through. And to get that referee almost there, and that shoulder come up, it's like, oh, it's legitimate. It makes you feel real good. This match did a really great job of making Kevin Owens look legit. Like Kevin Owens kicked out of the spear, right? Like he kicked out of a spear, and Roman went nuts after he kicked out of a Superman punch, it's really interesting how they have Roman. He uh kind of sinks over time where he's already bad, but he gets like progressively worse when he gets frustrated. Like he loses control, and now all of a sudden he's gonna do some real damage. It's the character, because Roman talks very calm, and then he gets real serious, and when he feels offended, and he has this like entitlement to the character. So he kind of feels like, you shouldn't kick out of a Superman punch. And when you do, he's like, what? Oh, that's just embarrassing. Like you're trying to humiliate me now. And that's when he's really gonna start kind of going to work on on Kevin Owens. It was really good. I didn't like it was like a real inappropriate commercial at one point. I think it was right after a 2 count. They went straight to commercial. I was like, what? I'm like, it was like I think it was right after the stunner, because that's what I wrote down, like kicked out of the stunner, and then it was like real inappropriate commercial. Like it went to commercial like immediately, so you didn't really get to sink in and stay in that moment. It went straight to commercial. I was like, ugh, but it was a really good match, man. The end, boy. Okay, so y'all already know. Look, I'm trying not to repeat myself when it comes to, oh, you gotta stop having guys just interfere and nobody does anything. We're gonna get into that in the lumberjack match. And here, it was all right. It was a steel cage match. Jey did not get in the ring. He was outside the ring. And Kevin Owens still kind of nullified Jey by, hitting his head on the cage door. And then Jey very smartly handcuffs Kevin Owens to the cage. So you got this situation where Roman just basically has the opportunity to walk out. And Kevin Owens is, still lucid, and he's yelling at him, and he's trying to trip him. And, He's trying to stop Roman. Roman's just kind of like, you might as well have just thrown rose petals at his feet as he walked out. He just kind of looked at him like, huh, like, fat chance of me continuing this crap. Hey, look at you, look at you, you're stuck here. And I love that. Like, that was great heel shit. Like, yeah, you killed the drama of the cage escape by, having a guy who literally can't stop it. But, they added a little bit more heat because Roman lingered. Like, he just kind of stood there, letting it sink in that this match there's nothing you can do. It wasn't like he rushed and got out of the ring. He stood on the steps for a little while and just kind of looked at Kevin Owens. And let Kevin Owens talk his shit. Kevin Owens just kept talking, and Roman just looked at him like, what can you do? What can you do? You can't do anything. And then he taunted him a little bit after the match. So I think that was cool. It was a good end to this storyline, a good end to this feud. I was so glad that, maybe we go to, what do we do after this is a good question. Because apparently they're probably not going to have a Smackdown on the next week. The next week is December, late December. It's almost the 1st. So I guess they basically this was the write-off for 2020. So Roman's next feud won't be announced until in 2 weeks, something like that. So we got the situation now where they got some time to sit down and figure out, okay, who's going to be the next opponent? It's probably going to be Bill Goldberg. Money would have said Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan announced that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble match later. We'll talk about that when we get there. But I'm really interested in where you go with Kevin Owens next, because naturally you could go with Kevin Owens and Jey Uso. Where do you go with them as far as like what kind of matches they could have? Because they've already had matches, so you have to say, okay, they have to take it to the next level. Well, what's the next level? What are the stakes that you put on those matches? That Jey has to leave Roman's side, or Jey has to leave, he has to get fired or something, or loser gets fired or something like that. You could put the heat there, because there's plenty of heat there between Jey and Kevin Owens. There's enough heat for you to go with a feud, but what do you get out of it other than, okay, they fought and now they're just going to keep coexisting on the same brand? I don't know what you can do, and you definitely have to have them feud, because Jey Uso has been instrumental in Kevin Owens losing both of his title shots. So you have to do something. And they've been fighting since November. So you have to do something. At the Royal Rumble, it has to be some type of match. Or maybe on a Smackdown before you get there. They have to culminate this Kevin Owens Jey Uso thing. I guess you could just have a regular match, but that feels anticlimactic in comparison to all the damage Jey Uso has done to Kevin Owens over the last couple of weeks. So something really needs to be done. It probably needs to have like a last man standing match or something. Something vicious, an I quit match. Something with some stakes to it. So at least when Jey loses or something like that, Roman can have a response. But the next match was triple threat tag team championship match for the women's tag team titles. So they did ye old everybody comes out to talk segment where Asuka and Charlotte was in the ring, and then Bayley comes to the ring, and then Sasha Banks comes to the ring. Nothing matters here. It was just a bunch of throwaway teams put together. But the match itself still turned out to be really good. So the match was Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. At least they have history of tagging. They tagged that tribute to the troops. Carmella and Bayley, who there's no reason for this. There is no reason for Carmella and Bayley to be partners. And Asuka and Charlotte. And of course, there's no reason for Charlotte to be Asuka's partner, but here we go. I did like the spot between Bianca Belair and Charlotte, even though it was kind of a rip-off of the same spot I think they did with Naomi. I think they've done it with Naomi. They've done it with other people. I think they also might have done it with Rhea Ripley. But Bianca Belair and Charlotte have history, of course, from Charlotte's very brief run in NXT. Sasha Banks beat Bayley early with a frog splash. I'm on Team Pam. I really am, but you have to ask the question, bro. What is going on with Bayley? Like, they really just kind of like beating her, and then she kind of like shrugs it off, like lost, like so what, But whatever. Like I did, I liked the final stretch. The final stretch was really cool when you had Sasha Banks in the figure eight, and she was trying to tag out, and she couldn't reach Bianca Belair, so she went full Rapunzel and kind of threw her hair at Sasha Banks, who grabbed it, and then she pulled her to the ring. Like I love that spot specifically, not just because I got to use a Rapunzel reference, but also it goes to the smartest part of the Bianca Belair character, that she actually thought about this. Like it feels very orchestrated and choreographed, but at the same time, it's smart. If her hair can reach, pull her hair, and she's gonna pull it like a rope. And I like when she uses her hair in the match. At least, I mean, I still think it should be technically an illegal weapon, but I do like when she uses her hair in the match. It makes sense. If you're gonna have it, use it. So why not? But I thought it was dope. Bayley had taken out Sasha Banks, and then that left Bianca Belair by herself, and she got beat by Charlotte using natural selection. So it was fine. Bianca Belair couldn't beat Charlotte and Asuka by herself. I mean that's perfectly fine, perfectly understandable. Bayley was sort of the reason Bianca Belair lost, so we were going to continue their feud. What the hell do you do with Carmella now? No idea. Where is Sasha Banks' next feud? So you have pretty much that situation where they didn't put the Riot Squad in this match, which would have been a natural thing to do, was to put the Riot Squad here. But since Charlotte and Asuka was going to win, I guess it made sense not to beat the actual tag team that's on SmackDown, and maybe to save that match for some other time. And instead just load this up with star power. Because essentially everybody in this match was pushed. Everybody in this match was pushed. Except that you knew, walking in that Carmella and Bayley weren't going to win. You just knew they weren't going to win. For starters, it's Carmella and Bayley. Like, what the hell do they have in common? We haven't even seen them on the same screen together, let alone anything that says that they should be tag team partners for any real reason. Now, if it had been, I don't know, Billie Kay and some partner that she had chosen, it would have made more sense. But I guess they just wanted to have the star power there and have everybody have one big blow off match for their feud. And it makes sense if you're looking at the culmination of 2020 for Bayley to be in a match with Asuka and Sasha Banks, because they've been intertwined all year. And Charlotte, of course, was intertwined with Bianca Belair earlier this year. So it's like one big knot of everybody has been sort of mixing it up with everybody all year. Asuka and Charlotte have been mixing it up. Asuka and Bayley have been mixing it up. Well, Carmella hasn't been there, so she's the only one that's been sort of the odd person out. But, it's like all of these players have just kind of been in competition with each other most of the year. So it makes sense. And the match was good. So there's nothing to complain about. Other than it was a bunch of throwaway teams that you kind of had no idea that they were ever going to win. So it was what it was. So the Street Profits did a rundown of the rest of the card, and then they tried to they saw Sami Zayn as he was harassing this social media person, and who about this leaked audio footage, and then they approached him, and Sami Zayn talked to them, and he harassed them, and then they broke out the "I Was Intercontinental Champion" shirt, which was great. Of course, there was great foreshadowing. And there was a lot of people who had basically spoiled the match anyway. There was people who were spoiling the shit all night. And I'm gonna talk about that later. But I don't like spoilers. I really don't. Like, it's stupid. People do that stuff because it pisses off other people. That's the only reason people do spoilers. But there's a specific reason why I want to talk about spoilers, but we talk about that at the end. But I kind of figured it was going to be, all the dirt sheets were like, big title change on SmackDown. So, like, once you count the champions on SmackDown, like, oh, Sasha Banks is in this match, Roman's in this match, the only title left is Sami Zayn anyway, right? So, there needs to be like a moratorium on that shit. Then we get what could possibly be the match of the night. I know that's controversial, but there was something special about this Jey Uso versus Daniel Bryan match. It was a special match. Like nobody has worked harder to make Jey Uso look legit than Daniel Bryan. Nobody. He worked harder than Roman to make Jey Uso look legit. He has let Jey Uso do whatever he wanted to him and beat him in record time convincingly. Right? Daniel Bryan has been working his ass off to make Jey Uso look great. And this was no different. Now, days before this, actually for over a month now, Daniel Bryan has basically been saying this is his last run. Like, he wants to be a part-time wrestler, full-time dad. And part of this being a part-time wrestler is he's sort of devaluing himself. He's got the book. He's helping to write Smackdown. So he's pretty much kind of just booking himself in the kickoff show and booking himself to get beat to, Jey Uso or get thrown around and get injured and carried out, using himself and his star power to literally get other people over. It's incredibly unselfish. He should be applauded every time you've seen him. And this guy's not that old. He's only like 38 or something like that. He's not that old. He's not old. There were guys who are 50 who weren't this unselfish. Okay, so, but he's really kind of been, but the crazy thing is his character is so sympathetic that he could actually do this and it not hurt him. Like Rey Mysterio could do something similar. Like Rey Mysterio has been doing this to himself for a long time too. Like he just doesn't care. You can go throw Rey into anything, you pop his eyeball out of his head. You could, brand him, do whatever. He's still going to be Rey Mysterio at the end of the day. He's walking out, booyaka, booyaka. And all the kids going to be like, yay, Rey. Same thing. Daniel Bryan, you can do whatever you want. Beat him 100 times in a row. Everybody's still going to chant yes. And everybody's going to be like, I love Daniel Bryan. So it's a beautiful thing that he's able to do this. And this match was one of those moments that I was kind of like, I was really proud to be a wrestling fan watching this. Jey Uso was badass. For starters, he didn't even let Daniel Bryan get an entrance. He attacked him during the entrance, threw him all over the place. He cut off his comeback. It was really good stuff, man. Like it was really badass. It was special. And I enjoyed the finish too, because Jey Uso was essentially dominating this match. There was little, like there was a lot of selling from Daniel Bryan, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. But there was still fire there. He didn't die. He kept coming back. He kept trying to come back. He was frustrating Jey by kicking out of all these big moves, and he kicked out of the big Uso splash if I remember correctly. So he was really being gritty, being tough, hanging in there, and he caught Jey slipping. Jey got caught just off focus for just a second with that running knee, and Daniel Bryan wins. Excellent match. Probably my favorite match that they've had definitely my favorite match between the two of them. I definitely think this was better than the cage match, and definitely better than the main event. I think this was the best match on the show. This was fantastic. Daniel Bryan is doing masterful work when it comes to Jey Uso. And I didn't expect this match to even happen, because the only thing people cared about was spoiling the title matches, because they thought that's all you cared about. But this match was really good, and they had heat, because they had been doing all this stuff before with the Survivor Series stuff. This match had heat, and then it's a crazy thing. It had heat, but it wasn't a gimmick match. So it was the blow off to their feud, essentially, with no gimmicks, no last man standing. Nobody had to hit somebody with a chair. It was two guys who don't like each other. They go out there, they beat the shit out of each other in a normal wrestling mano-a-mano match. One person wins, one person loses, and the person who lost does not look like shit because he lost. Okay? Nobody can be mad at Jey Uso, except Roman, in storyline, of course, that he lost this match. Because it was traditional, as far as it was two guys stood in the ring, one guy walked out. What can you say? Jey did the best he could, and he was just a little bit off. He had a stellar night, and you still just a little bit off. That's amazing shit. It's really good shit. So after the match, the post-match interview from Daniel Bryan, he announced that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble. So that kind of took that Daniel Bryan was not going to be the babyface to wrestle Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, which a lot of people thought that might be the case. And it actually would have made a lot more sense because Roman sicked Jey on Daniel Bryan. So it kind of would make sense that Daniel Bryan would loop around. Like I said, this whole family thing. And it would have made sense for Daniel Bryan to say, like, hey, I'm a family man. You know, Kevin Owens was a family man. Roman Reigns is a family man. You have these doubles, or these mirrors, right? Bad father Roman, good dad Kevin, good dad Daniel, and then somebody else who could also do good dad. But they decided to just put Daniel Bryan in the Royal Rumble, which means that the spot is open for Roman's opponent. And who do you think? Now, me being an asshole, I would put Rey Mysterio in that spot. I would think that Rey Mysterio would fit there perfectly. Rey won the feud with Seth Rollins. He hasn't had a title shot, and I don't think I've ever seen Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio. I don't think that's ever happened. Right? Rey Mysterio, his character is based off his fatherhood right now. Right? He's coming out there with his family. Rey Mysterio versus Roman Reigns should be happening at the Royal Rumble. But it probably will be Bill Goldberg. Now, Bill Goldberg is still doing this. He's also a family man, right? He's talking about he wrestles so that, you know, his son can see it. He wrestles so for all the little kids and stuff like that. Give them a role model. And Roman is being a bad role model right now. Those are different things that you can look at and how you can book this storyline where you get to continue the Roman Reigns Family Matters story and then book him against a man who is actually going to be representing good fatherhood, you know? But the question then remains, is Daniel Bryan the first man entering in the Royal Rumble? He's not going to be number one or anything. He's just the first to announce that he's going to be in it. Is that a nod to maybe he's going to win it? And I shake my head at that one. I don't think Daniel Bryan would even do that. Okay, I think that he probably would say, I'll be in it maybe at the end. Like he maybe comes at number 3 or something like that. And then he lasts all the way to the end and get thrown out. But I don't think that Daniel Bryan would book himself to win the Royal Rumble just to face Roman Reigns. I do think that match will happen. But do I think it will happen at WrestleMania? I think that's the biggest match you can do on SmackDown. But again, like I said, Daniel Bryan hasn't been pulling himself down. You know, I think he's been kind of putting himself out of the way. But that is one of the biggest matches you can do on SmackDown is Roman versus Daniel Bryan. But you have to go through Roman versus Goldberg first. And you know what? So what? I don't care. But I think Daniel Bryan can win like the Elimination Chamber or a tournament or something like that to be the number one contender. He's Daniel Bryan. You know, WrestleMania is his time. If that's how he wants to put a dovetail or a little bow on the top of his full-time roster run is to get beat by Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, I love that idea. Okay. Look, I know a lot of people get mad because, you know, Roman get crowned over and over again. Oh, they just be crowning Roman. They just be crowning him all the time. It's like, so what? He's a top guy. You take the big leg, okay? When this WrestleMania season, Hogan drops the big leg. He drops the big leg anyway, but you definitely getting the big leg at WrestleMania. You definitely getting it. Roman is the guy. You eat the spear. That is what it is. Now, I don't think it's going to happen when it comes to that BigE thing. I think him winning the Intercontinental Championship pretty much says that's not going to happen. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So Daniel Bryan says that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. He gets accosted by Sami Zayn, who is, you know, of course, on a rampage. And then he says that, oh, how convenient that you say I should have to defend the Intercontinental Championship every week, or it should be defended more often. And now I have to defend it tonight, and it just so happens to be a lumberjack match. And then said that he thinks Daniel Bryan is a stooge. He said, you're a stooge. You stooged me out, and this is all your fault. Now, they've been building this Sami Zayn Daniel Bryan match. That could be your WrestleMania match, too. Very likely that Sami Zayn maybe wins the Intercontinental Championship back next year. And then it's Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. I would love that. I think that would be fantastic, too. They just run that back, even though they wrestled at WrestleMania for the title last year. I think that would be fantastic. That would be great, because I think they're probably going to have a crowd this year, or maybe even a small crowd. You know, they probably do it outside of a football stadium or something. But I'm interested in that, even though I do think it may be Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns more. But they've planted this seed, and they've been watering this seed of Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn. It's going somewhere, okay? So that means Sami Zayn is going to blame Daniel Bryan for him losing the Intercontinental Championship. So likely, and Sami Zayn did say, you're going to lose at the Royal Rumble, and karma's going to get you. Which means Sami Zayn is gonna screw Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble. And I can't wait. I can't wait 6 weeks for this. But that ought to be fun. I want it to be something legit. I want like Sami Zayn to just come out of nowhere, like not even be in the Rumble. Just come out and throw Daniel Bryan out. Like The Miz did to John Cena that one time. Where The Miz was the champion. He wasn't even in the Rumble. He just got in the ring, just throw him out. You know? That's what I want. I want Sami Zayn to like forego being in the Royal Rumble, just to sneak in from like the back area or something, just to throw out Daniel Bryan. That's what I want. You know, just to screw Daniel Bryan. I want Daniel Bryan to get down to the last 3 or 4 when it happens. I want to be like so close, and for people to be invested in the idea that Daniel Bryan could be going to WrestleMania, could finally win the Royal Rumble. The one thing that he says he has never done, that he wants to do, that this is his new goal, is to win a Royal Rumble, and for Sami Zayn to take it away from him. That's what I want. That would be great storytelling. Now, of course, we had to deal with Sami Zayn maybe trying to burn through his rematches, you know, and you know, with BigE and stuff like that. But you got 5 weeks, so you got time. So the main event of the show: Sami Zayn versus BigE for the Intercontinental Championship in a lumberjack match. BigE wins the title. But before we talk about BigE being the champion, where we go from here, we gotta talk about the match. The match itself was very good. All the matches were very good, like I said. One thing that went wrong, though, the one thing that bothered me, you literally had all of the baby faces just watching as the heels beat the hell out of BigE. They just stood there and watched. 2, 3, I don't know how many times it happened. It's like they were literally mobbing this guy. He had to make his own comeback because none of the baby faces did anything. And I just sat there and I was like, the invisible wall. The invisible wall. You got guys standing near the steps, not 18 inches away from where it's at, 1.5 feet maybe. Like, what's going on? What are you guys doing? That's not fair. It's like, get your ass over there and help. What are you doing? I'm not gonna go too crazy, man. It's just it's too stupid to ignore. It's too stupid to ignore. That's so frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating because now it's bad enough you cut their balls off. They can't run to the ring and get the pop, right? Now, literally, they're standing right there and won't do anything. They're literally standing within arm's reach. You could have just pushed somebody. Done anything. They didn't do nothing. It was stupid. So BigE had to make his own comeback and fight off the heels by himself because the faces weren't doing anything. The faces, of course, were faces. When Sami Zayn was in trouble, they didn't beat him up, punch him, or nothing like that. They just threw him back in the ring, which was a smart thing to do. Sami Zayn decided he was going to escape. He was going to get the hell out of there. So of course, he ran, and he got chased down by the human panther known as Apollo Crews. He chased that man. He tackled him. And they had Apollo Crews and the Street Profits and I think Otis and Gable. They all brought Sami Zayn back kicking and screaming, and this was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. This is complete territory wrestling right here. With the exception of, the good guys just standing around watching, this is complete territory wrestling right here. Sami Zayn was trying to be sneaky. He was trying to escape. He was trying to do a lot of different things. Ultimately, the good guys just brought him back. And him being brought back, straight up one-on-one, he couldn't win. So Big E wins with the big ending. And the prophecy is fulfilled. Big E is now back on top as a single star. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy. There's confetti. There's Sami Zayn is crying and weeping outside the ring, which is masterful storytelling on his part, because Sami Zayn's character has been all about being the Intercontinental Champion and his pride in being the Intercontinental Champion. But now he has to, it's the conspiracy, right? Now, Sami Zayn has been a conspiracy theorist. It was literally people conspiring him against him at this point. They literally helped Big E win. So it makes sense that within the story of Sami Zayn, that he's been saying people are out to get him. He finally saw that people were, and they were not sneaking behind his back talking about they were out to get him. They literally grabbed him and brought him back to the ring. So, of course, he gets to use this conspiracy theory to get another shot, get another match, use this to motivate him for the future. But this is great shit. The body language of Sami Zayn after he lost was amazing. The energy of Big E when he won was amazing. The energy in all the baby faces was great. It was all good shit. I love this. The last time they did something this big, as far as changing one of those titles at the Christmas show, I believe it was Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev, where this was sort of the culmination of Rusev Day, where Rusev had kind of been, on the cusp of really being a big star, and they gave him the Smackdown Christmas, which is actually his birthday too. They gave him the Smackdown Christmas episode where him and Shinsuke Nakamura tore the house down. The match was like 20 minutes. It was so good. And, and I know that, sometimes people are like, Shinsuke Nakamura only had one good match. Like, he had good matches. But, talking about Shinsuke Nakamura level matches, yeah, he only had one. But having really good wrestling matches, he's had plenty of those in the WWE. He just haven't had any New Japan tier work rate God matches. He just haven't done that shit. He only did that shit once. Okay? But having good quality WWE style matches, he's done plenty of those. Most of his matches are actually pretty good. But they're just, him coasting. They know he can work. We know he can work harder. We know he can do more. But that match with Rusev was very good. And it made Rusev look like a star. Rusev got that big moment on Christmas on his birthday. He won the U.S. title. Of course, he lost it like a couple of weeks later, but he got the big moment. So, yeah, that's why I think it's going to happen here. They gave Big E the big moments where he won the title. Now I think that either A, you have Sami Zayn take it from him, in order to get heat back on Sami Zayn, which is entirely possible. Now, if Sami Zayn wins the title back, now it's more likely that Big E maybe wins the Royal Rumble. But I do think that him, who do you have him wrestle other than Corbin? Like, there's no heels, or Jey Uso. I guess you could have Jey Uso, but I think that Jey is probably going to be paired with Kevin or somebody like that. So you don't have a lot of options with heels that have some steam. I think you need to start building a stable of heels. You need to build some people for Big E to beat, which is why I think he's probably just going to drop the belt back to Sami Zayn. And that probably would just be, the unfortunate thing is he'll be champion for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then, maybe near the Royal Rumble, he'll drop the belt back. I doubt the title will actually make the show. They seem to be doing the TV championship idea with the Intercontinental title, where it's defended on the main event of TV shows and not necessarily at pay-per-views. Speaking of which, this show was taped 3 days before it aired. And of course, it was spoiled, and it was everywhere. And this is why I want to talk about the spoilers and everything. If this match does not draw, if it does not do a big rating, and I don't know what the ratings are going to be, I have no idea and I don't care. If this match doesn't draw, it probably will affect whether Big E gets that push or not. Because everyone will know that Big E won the title. Well, most people will know. And other people have been trying to spoil it. But if this match does not draw, and you can even say, oh, well, it's Christmas. People are not going to be watching TV on Christmas. It's like, no, all motherfuckers do is watch TV on Christmas and Thanksgiving. Because they spending time with their families. And that's why they have basketball games. I think, was it basketball games? They had football games today too, didn't they? You know, like the idea that, you know, people don't watch TV on holidays is like wrong. And, you know, wrestling used to be a routine for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Like those are big sports days because they're family days. People spend time with their family, get around the TV, watch the big events. They booked this Smackdown like a fucking pay-per-view for a reason. They want to pop this rating, but of course it was spoiled. But if this match doesn't draw, and it was on this big show, then it might affect Big E's push. And I'm just putting that out there. If it doesn't, and I don't know what the number would be, because they put Roman on first, right? That there was a reason why they put Roman on first. They could have put Big E on first, had him win the title, and then let Roman guide you through the rest of the show. They put Roman on first. Not just because they wanted to end the year on a high note, and they want to send everybody home happy. Yes, that's why. But you could have done that, you know, with a different match. They put Big E on last for a reason. They want to test the genuine interest in Big E as a solo star. That's why I don't think he's going to be the Intercontinental Champion very long. If the interest is there, they're going to take that title from him, put it on somebody else, and he might win the Royal Rumble. And that's just what I think is going to happen. If the interest is there, don't expect him to be the Intercontinental Champion very long. If he's the Intercontinental Champion when it gets to the Royal Rumble, he will not be in a title match at the Royal Rumble. That's just kind of how I feel. I feel like this is the test. This is the ultimate test. This is the test to see if he can draw. If he can draw, they're not going to leave that title on him. They're going to take it off of him. If he can't draw, they're going to leave that title on him, and he's just going to go into the Royal Rumble as the Intercontinental Champion. And it's not going to be his fault, obviously. You know, people are probably going to be like, well, they watched the cage match, and then people started to peter off because, I mean, they had the women's match next, even though Sasha Banks was in that match, so there's no reason to change the channel. And then Daniel Bryan was in the match after that, so there was no reason to change the channel. The match with the least amount of star power was Big E and Sami Zayn, and that was the main event. Right? We all agree with that? That was the match with no star power in it. No long history of main event at WrestleMania or being a big star or, you know, on the cover of magazines and all that shit. So Daniel Bryan has done that. Charlotte has done that. Sasha Banks has done that. You know, of course, Roman's done it. The only match that didn't have that was Sami Zayn and Big E. So that match they was leaving that match to draw, and they announced that match beforehand. So, of course, they announced the cage match just a few days before the event happened. Big E versus Sami Zayn was one of the first matches, which quite honest, was the only match booked for this show ahead of time. And then, of course, they said, oh, it's going to be a cage match. I think it was on Monday. They were like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a cage match between Roman and Kevin Owens. They basically are saying, if this show draws ratings, if he starts to sell merchandise, they can then justify pushing Big E to the title at WrestleMania. Then you may see Big E versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But if this does not draw, if it's lower than usual, then I would say, man, you're probably looking at... Now, it's kind of foolish to make that decision off of one show, and I don't think that they probably would. I think that they probably have an idea that, you know, maybe give it some time. But this is going to be a big launching point. Can Big E be a focal point of the show? Capture people's attention. Get them to stay in their seat and stay on this channel. If they can do that, they can justify pushing him forward. You know, if it flops, then they have a reason to maybe start questioning it later. Now, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed. What I'm saying is that's how I would do it. I would build it up. put this right here, exactly the way they did it, and then we will wait. Wait, see what these ratings are, and then maybe you do it again. You run it back. Like when they did it to Sasha Banks, right? They had Sasha Banks and Bayley, and the ratings went up because Sasha Banks is a draw. And now we don't have to worry about Sasha Banks, what she's gonna do anymore, because she can hold people's interest. Now it's time to see if Big E can do it. You know, everybody knows this is his crowning achievement. Now it could also be Sami Zayn. You know, it's always an opportunity for him. He was in multiple segments, but I think this is it's almost always leaning on the face. You know, because Sami Zayn can't go anywhere anyway. You know, he can't fight Roman because Roman is a heel. So it's all about Big E. If this draws, then Big E is a draw. Then maybe we could talk about that Big E Roman match. And I hope it does. You know, I don't give a shit about TV ratings personally, but I hope it does. And I hope that all these people who are trying to spoil the show and trying to ruin the show for people, I hope they don't get their way. Because if they get their way, it could fuck up Big E's push. If a lot of people are kind of like, oh, I know already, I'm not going to watch the show. Now, some people are the opposite. They say like, what the hell? Big E won. And then they tune in to see how it happened. You know, that's one of the, that's how they knew Mankind was a draw. You know, people knew ahead of time, and they literally saw people change the channel over to see Foley win the title. Now you have the same situation here. You know, the wrestling internet has been saying over and over and over again that they want Big E pushed to the main event. This is the closest he's been in a long, long time. This needs to work. Everybody needs to if you're interested in Big E versus Roman Reigns, which is interesting to me, but I'm not one of those people dying on the heel of I absolutely need it. It needs to happen. I'm far more interested in Keith Lee winning the Royal Rumble. Big E wouldn't bother me, but I would really prefer Keith Lee to win the Royal Rumble. But if Big E can draw, I see him winning the Royal Rumble. That's my 2 cents. But SmackDown was fantastic. Every show banged. Every match banged, rather, I should say. Some good... They ended some stories here. Roman and Owens should be over. Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso should be over. Zayn and E could it's just some legs in that story because this is their first real match. So there's at least 1 or 2 more matches left in that feud. The tag team title match was just basically, hey, we need some stars right here. Because they could have just put the Riot Squad there and Billie Kay and her partner or whatever, put them in that spot, and the match probably would have been, not as good. But let me know what you guys think. I still think this might have been one of the greatest single episodes of SmackDown. But then again, I've skipped years and years of SmackDown. Like I couldn't tell you anything about SmackDown in 99 or 2000 or 2001. And I know a lot of people are like, those were the good years when, you had that tag team match with, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit against, was it Steve Austin and Triple H? I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me about that one match for the 12,000th time. I'm talking about from top to bottom a show that held your attention from the beginning to the end without doing wacky fucking angles, without nobody being set on fire, nobody having to kiss anybody's ass or anything stupid. I'm talking like pure pro wrestling. It's got to be, at least in recent memory. That's good enough because SmackDown has been really good, since Roman returned and even a little bit before it, So SmackDown had a good year. But thank you guys for listening. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Thanks to everybody who is helping this channel grow. My boy Millennial Smart did a great job. He requested or he shared one of my videos. I appreciate that. Thanks, homeboy. Everybody who has been helping the channel grow, that comments. I enjoy talking to you guys. 3 Count Commentary is going to continue. It may have to be some changes made because I think my work hours are about to change, but this is going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing it as much as I can. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. I appreciate you, and I'm out.